I really want to make a video for my loved ones summarizing my experience with cryptocurrency in hopes that those I care about can also benefit from cryptocurrency the way I have. I'll explain what it is, why I'm a fan, what my experience has been as a normal person who has not had a huge amount of money or is even very experienced with stocks or investments or anything like that, some misconceptions I've observed over the years, how Bitcoin has performed and what I've learned about Bitcoin in the 6 years that I've been investing, and then how you can actually set up yourself to invest if you desire. Cryptocurrency is basically digital money, and it's each specific type of cryptocurrency, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, etc. Each of those has their own individual equation that governs how the coins are created and how they're transacted and things like that. So there are people with servers that they put in these giant warehouses, they stack the servers, they put a bunch of uh, they make sure they've got electricity and generators and backups and cooling equipment and everything, and they mine coins by having each computer run this equation over and over and over again up to a certain number of iterations, which generates a coin. So those iterations create the scarcity that gives the coin its value. Another form of scarcity is that there's only a limited number of Bitcoins that will ever exist. We have not reached that number yet, but there is a maximum number that can be mined. So people are mining it. It goes into the Bitcoin ecosystem or network of people that are use Bitcoin and stuff, and then people use it as a currency. So same goes with Ethereum, Litecoin, and etc. Over the years, people have their opinions on what equations are better than others and what elements those equations should have. And so they make changes to existing equations, or they make completely new equations and then give those new names, such as Litecoin or Ethereum Classic. So Bitcoin Cash was actually a fork off of Bitcoin. By fork, I mean it used the Bitcoin equation with a few tweaks. They released it, and when they released it, because it was so closely related to Bitcoin, anybody who already had Bitcoin automatically received Bitcoin Cash. So I did not invest this $19.84. It was actually it automatically appeared in my account, in my wallet. So I just want to explain how that works. Now, I feel that cryptocurrency is a technologically inevitability. It's something we are definitely going to do globally as a standard way of life for humans. Just like we had to invent fire or we made electricity, just like we stopped exchanging buckskins and salt and seashells and started minting standard minted coins of precious metals with, Julius Caesar's face on them and stuff like that. Then we eventually had bills with UV strips and watermarks, and now most of us have credit cards and make digital transactions. So digital money is, to me, just kind of a no-brainer. That is definitely the next step. And so when people look aghast or hesitant or wary or something, I don't always understand that, because it seems obvious to me that this will be our next technological step. Now, where I do understand the trepidation is in which cryptocurrencies specifically it will be. Because, for example, you could have said that social media was also technologically inevitable for human beings. But who would have known if it was going to be MySpace or Facebook or something else? If people had to put their money on it, they may have put their money on MySpace at some point in time. That seemed to be the juggernaut. And then Facebook came and swept it away. So, hey, maybe it won't be Bitcoin that is the number one cryptocurrency 50 or 100 years from now. Who knows? Maybe it won't be any of these. Maybe it'll be a new one that doesn't even exist yet. But I will tell you that for now, I think that most cryptocurrencies are a pretty good bet. Well, maybe I shouldn't say most, but they are ranked. They have rankings on how reliable they are. They have historical growth that people can observe. And the two, in my opinion, that have performed the best are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, Bitcoin there really is no comparison to Bitcoin. Because if you combine all cryptocurrencies in existence, and there's over 100, maybe a few hundred, Bitcoin is the majority of all cryptocurrency investment. So I would, put your money on Bitcoin if you're trying to put your money on cryptocurrency. Now, my personal experience was that in total, I have invested $1,700 in cryptocurrencies. And that grew to $7,800. And so I've gained $6,000 total over the past few years. I wasn't sitting at my computer day trading. I wasn't analyzing, the articles and stuff. I mean, I did a little bit, but I didn't need to. You don't need to do any of that stuff. So let me show you some of the history of my transactions here. I put in $300 over the course of like 6 or 7 months back in the day, a few years ago. Took it all out. I guess I fell on hard times or something. Put some money back in, gave some money to a friend because I really, really, really wanted them to have Bitcoin. Put in some more money, bought something or made a donation or something. And at this point, I was pretty much at zero, okay? So this is really the summary of my investment right here. This $1,500 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago, if you add all this up, you get this number, 1552. So, somewhere in here, there's $52. Who cares? Okay. So essentially, this is $1,500 over 3 years, grew to be $6,800, which is a profit of $5,300. Okay. That is a growth of 440%. 100% means you didn't lose or gain anything. 100% would have been 1552.79. Okay. So 120% is great growth for any investment. This is 442. Fantastic. My investment in Ethereum was $200. I don't know why I took all that out. Something was going on. Something happened to me. I don't know. And so I ended up with $40 left over from my initial investment. That $40 became $820 for an overall profit of $780, which is a 2,000% growth. That is just out of this world. So if all you have is $40 to your name, don't feel like you need to have a whole bunch of money, which brings me to my next item of misconceptions. Bitcoin is worth $55,000 for one coin right now. No, you do not need $55,000 to invest in Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a whole coin at a time. You can put in $1, $5, however much you want. I had a loved one I told about this who had only $20 to their name at the time, took 10 of those $20, put them in Bitcoin, and got $100 a year later. So it doesn't matter how much you have, you can still invest in Bitcoin. That's one misconception. Another one is that people seem to have this really intense anxiety when it comes to investments in general, like they're going to make or break the bank or like their whole life depends on it or something. You're not investing your 401k. You're not don't think of it as this huge thing that has to work. Okay. People sometimes ask me all these questions or try to grill me. I'm like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I don't benefit from you doing this. I'm just excited to share this wonderful advent of a technology that you could financially benefit from with other people. And so the intensity of the questions shows me that this person has a deep fear and anxiety about what they're going to be putting into Bitcoin, which means the number in their head is way too high. If you have more than 2 or 3 questions about this, then the number that you're thinking of investing is way too high. Divide it by 10 and then just put that, think of the amount you would spend at Chuck E. Cheese at your friend's kid's birthday party, or that you would, spend on Starbucks, or just whatever. You left the door open and you had to pay extra on your light bill. I mean, just put that some disposable amount of money you're never going to even think about again that if I'm totally wrong and all of this just tanks tomorrow and you lose it forever, you won't care. You'll just shrug and say, oh well, I tried. Think of it like a scratcher's ticket or something. Don't like put a lot of angst and expectation into it. One example I'll give here of how I put that into practice was these two. I put $50 in. I started to branch out and wanted to experiment. This is 4 years after my first investment, right? So I'm like, okay, let me see what's up with these other coins and see if I can start being a little more savvy about this. I don't know much about stocks, investments, whatever. I'm just going to put $50 in each because I'm feeling pretty comfortable right now. And the reason I put the $50 wasn't because I needed my $50 to turn into $1 million or something. I was completely fine with losing that money. I put it just to create an anchor in my mind to pay attention and actually follow along, to force engagement, to follow along and see what was going on with these so I could learn. So the $50 is kind of more of a tuition and like a game, like almost like playing a game, So I put those in. They both experienced losses, lost 11% here, lost 4% here. Well, I only put in $50, so I still have 48 and 45. So, I mean, $5, $2, no big deal. If I had put in $50,000 though, I would have lost 5 G's. So, cool. I learned that. I'm probably not going to invest in these ever again. This one, on the other hand, if I had put this 1550 in Ethereum instead of Bitcoin, I would have had $30,000 instead of 6,800. So I will definitely be investing in Ethereum. Now, the reason I'm even still considering Bitcoin is because there's way more people invested in Bitcoin. If you add up all the investment in all the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin still has the majority of all investment for any type of cryptocurrency. So, and remember, currency relies on mass agreement between a huge group of people that it has value. Any currency, whether it's a bunch of rocks, pieces of paper, or these digital currencies. So I like Bitcoin because a lot of people have adopted and committed to it. So if I were you, I would consider these two. And, I wanted to explain one last misconception. Okay, you do not need to follow along with the history or to know when to jump in. You don't have to play double dutch with cryptocurrency. Do not try to do day trading where you're pulling in and putting your money in and taking your money out. The one time I tried to start doing that, I missed out on like a $5,000 to $10,000 gain in Bitcoin. So don't do that. Just put your money in. Don't think about it again. Leave it in there for a few years and then come back to it later. Okay. If you're worried about when to put it in initially, let me tell you something. When I first put this in, it was the worst possible time in the entire history of Bitcoin to put your money into Bitcoin. And I'll show you. Here is the history of Bitcoin. This is the biggest relative drop that Bitcoin has ever had so far. If you look at all the other drops that it's had, okay? So this is December 2017, January 2018. Okay, look what I put this in. November 2017, January 2018. Fantastic. And by the way, at the same time, I emphatically insisted and encouraged an in-law who had just met me to invest in Bitcoin. And so, because they had just met me, it was kind of important that my advice came to fruition so that I could maintain my credibility. But the same week, it completely tanked and didn't recover for years. Look at all the way until 2019. Did it even start to come middle of 2019? Did it even start to kind of come back up? Still didn't recover until just recently. So I looked like a moron this whole time, pretty much. And yet, look at this. Even though I invested pretty much at the worst possible time, I still had a gain of 442%. So don't worry about when to put your money in. Don't worry about trying to take it in and out or reading the news or memorizing all this stuff or figuring out which one to invest in. I'll tell you right now, invest in Bitcoin or invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay? You don't need a lot to invest in it, and don't have all this anxiety about putting a whole bunch in and stressing about whether it's going to work out or not. No. Just put your little play money in there, leave it in there, and see what happens. So a little bit of history is here. Okay, so it started out in 2013, right? So at the end of that year, There was a peak, you can see, at about $1,000. And if you look just 2 weeks earlier, it was at $300. So people's money, like 330, okay. People's money tripled or doubled. Tripled or doubled in this time. I'm sure people were freaking out. I don't think I even knew Bitcoin existed at this time. People were probably freaking out about this, that their investment doubled or tripled in that short amount of time, which is very unusual for any investment. So this looked like this. It looked like this at that point in time, okay? Eventually, this is going to look like that. This is going to look like that. You know what I'm saying? So there are a few patterns that I've personally observed, and I'm going to make some predictions. I think these are dampening sinusoids for all the nerds out here, which just basically means that there's a huge up, a huge down, medium up, medium down, little up, little down, and it just keeps going like that until it kind of dampens to a horizontal line. It's also fractal. So you have a little tiny pattern that looks kind of like this, and then you have a huge pattern that looks kind of like this, and it'll just keep going like that. The third aspect that I'm going to predict is that you will have these fractal peaks of that will be sinusoidally dampening over time in a pattern that will eventually do this kind of logarithmic thing where they'll go up and up and up in this curve. Like if let's say we were to record Bitcoin over a period of like 20 years or something, and then you know all these little jagged lines would kind of look flat like this, and it would be a relatively smooth curve that would kind of go up like this and then become more horizontal. Because at some point we're going to mine all the Bitcoin, and at some point there will be so many people that have joined Bitcoin, just like right now. How many people are in Facebook? Billions. I think most of the human population is on Facebook, which is like crazy. So something similar may happen with Bitcoin, like huge adoption. So at that point in time, the Bitcoin will be very, very stable relative to how it is now. It's very volatile because it's new, and so I believe that's what the curve is going to look like. And I think at that point in time, its relationships with other currencies like fiat currency and gold and things like that will be a lot more reliable. You'll be able to put in your money on a random Wednesday and take it out on a random Thursday and feel comfortable about that. Right now, you don't know what's going to happen. It could go way down, way up in the short term. And so this, in my opinion, is a long-term investment. It's not something you're going to try to predict and take in and out in the short term, okay? So in the long term, you're expecting that huge curve. Now, the reason that I am passionate about encouraging the people around me to invest now is because the volatility being bigger now means that the dramatic growth also is now. I don't believe that there will be dramatic growth like this later when it stabilizes. That's the whole point, right? It's less volatile. Just like a government bond doesn't give you a huge return, but it's pretty reliable. I believe the same will be true for Bitcoin. So I want everyone around me to, even if it's just $1,000 that they end up in the end gaining, I want everyone to, money's hard to get. So I want us all to benefit. I want people to care. I care about the benefits. So that's the history. And that's my experience. If you found this interesting and you want to try it out, again, don't put a huge amount of money in there. Just put something in there that you feel comfortable losing forever. Okay? Just play money. You're going to need a wallet. Wallets I recommend are Coinbase, Robinhood, or PayPal. PayPal now offers the ability to buy Bitcoin. And actually some banks are even getting on board with that. I use Coinbase, but you can use any of these. Robinhood also allows you to trade on the stock market, other stocks. And of course, most people already have a PayPal. So it's up to you, whatever you want. I have Coinbase. If you want to use Coinbase, I believe Coinbase is the most popular wallet for Bitcoin right now. Like most people that have Bitcoin use Coinbase. If you choose to use Coinbase and you want $10 of Bitcoin for free and you want me to get $10 of Bitcoin for free, then you can use my link in the comments. That's basically it. Whether or not you choose to invest in cryptocurrency, I wish you abundance, and thank you for watching.